Hello, welcome to today's video. I'm Venus O'Hara, and today I'm going to talk about 8 Rules of Love by Shetty. I read this book, well, it took me a while to read this book, but I finished it around a month ago. And I also went to see Shetty, the Rules of Love tour, do we call it, here in Barcelona. And let me tell you about my experience reading the book and going to the event. Well, I must admit that I don't actually follow Shetty very closely. However, I did hear that he was coming to Barcelona from someone in my private members club, and I thought, you know what, I want to go and see him. I knew who he was, but I'm not an avid follower of him. And I really wanted to go because it's not often that someone of his caliber would be coming to Barcelona to give a talk in English. And I also wanted to go to some kind of more personal development events just for the energy and the atmosphere of the place. So me and my goddess friends, we decided to go. And also I think me and my friends, we thought that the area of love was the area that's probably most neglected in our lives. So as soon as we decided to go and we bought the tickets, I bought the book. And it took me such a long time to read it because I wasn't really in reading mode when I got the book. And I'm reading, a book every 10 days or every 2 weeks, something like that. But this time I had other things going on and it took me a long time. I really wanted to read the book before actually going to the event. I thought I was going to miss out on some valuable information. However, that wasn't the case at all. I only read about 1 or 2 chapters before the event, and they were both very different things. So let's talk about the 8 Rules of Love. I'm not going to go into the book in too many details or too much detail because I don't want to spoil it for you, but I definitely think it was a worthwhile read. I learned a lot from this book, and it's not just about him talking about, I found love and this is what I did, because I do know some kind of love coaches, relationship coaches who do kind of refer to their own experience a lot, and that's their blueprint of their methods, what have you. But this is very different. I think he talks about a lot of different studies and a lot of philosophies, and it's very insightful. And it taught me a lot about myself, and some of it was very triggering actually. The first part is about self-love and being self-reliant, being an independent person and not needing someone. The difference between solitude and loneliness, and that's something that I think I've definitely mastered. I have no problem at all spending time alone. I've spent many days alone, but I also find that I bounce off other people's energy. So I do like to spend time alone, but I also really like to spend time with people. But if I spend time with people, I always need to get back into my own shell after a while. I've just spent about over a week with family, and that was like, I need to get back into my own space now and be alone, which was much needed. But yeah, I think I've got that part mastered. But then the second part was the most triggering chapter of the whole book, which was about understanding your karma. Don't ignore your karma. And I think sometimes in relationships, I've done a lot of therapy in the past, and I've just realised that the microphone's not around. I hope you can listen to this properly. Anyway, a lot of therapy in the past, and they always, it's kind of a bit Freudian, I suppose, but our adult relationships are kind of a reflection, I don't know if you would say it like that, of our family relationships. And there's a lot of things that that can happen in your relationships that you might have been taught subconsciously, consciously as a child, and you might be mirroring things that are not your own. But then there are also many choices that we make that are our own responsibility. And that's something that really triggered me a lot, because I realized that, without going into too many details, that a lot of the terrible choices I have made have been my own fault. Oh my God. And I tried to it kind of got me thinking a lot about my own karma and how blocked I have been in my life in this area, in the romantic area. And I found it, and there's also an exercise in this where you actually write a love letter to yourself, which I think is a really important thing to do, because I've been struggling a lot with self-concept, how I see myself, and also learning how others see me, which has been very insightful for me as well, to kind of understand how I see myself and how that fits in. So this is a very, very triggering part of the book, but I think it's necessary to understand what you're putting out there, because that's directly related to what you're getting in your love life as well. For example, people who are, let's say, really focused on portraying an image of someone who is rich and successful, they might attract gold diggers, but then they are giving this image of themselves that that's the most important thing to them. Or people who are very focused on their own physical appearance might find that they are attracting people who are just focused on that or just interested in that, and that could be a superficial connection. So you have to take responsibility for what you're getting in, what you're bringing in, because of what you're putting out. So you have to think, what is my karma, and just being responsible for it. And I know in the past that I've made some terrible mistakes. Oh my God, terrible. I take full responsibility. So that was really triggering. And what made me very triggered about that was feeling that I had responsibility. I couldn't just blame my family for it like you can in a therapy session, It's quite hard. And then what's interesting as well is about love. How do you define love? What is love for you? If someone says to you that they love you, what does that really mean? Yeah, so love, I think for me there is a difference between being in love and loving someone. The in love thing, this kind of came to me through another book called, what's it called again? Cupid's Poisoned Arrow. It's all about the dopamine that's associated with love and relationships in general and orgasm. And I think the in love thing is just dopamine. It's like something happening inside you, and this person is provoking this sensation inside you. And I think in general we like people because of how they make us feel. So the in love thing is not exactly, I don't know how you just say it, reliable, even though, let's say, that sensation is amazing. It's like a drug. A lot of the best art, the best songs are inspired by that, and the best films as well. That feeling just makes you feel so alive. It's incredible. But real love is something different. It's more of an outward thing where you want the best for that person, even if they choose not to be with you. I think that's what real love is about. But I think it's nice to have a bit of a balance. You want a bit of the drug of love, which is going to make you dizzy and fuzzy inside and all of that, and make songs sound different. Wow! And just light up your day. But also feeling that you care for someone else, which is really the most beautiful part of it. And then there are other things about support, about following your purpose and allowing your partner to pursue their purpose as well. Because it's really important in life not just to fall in love and then just be consumed by one person. You cannot ignore your purpose in life. You have to have something that's yours, and also be supported in that endeavor, and also be supportive to someone else in their purpose as well. So I think this whole book gives this very well-rounded view of life, as your partner being your guru, your major support system, and someone who loves you. And then what's really interesting in this book is how it approaches conflict. I think one thing that really stuck out for me, which reading a chapter about conflict is not exactly something that feels very alluring to me, but it was very interesting nonetheless to kind of think about, let's say, if you are having an argument with someone, it's not about who's right. It's like your partner is not your opponent. You're on the same team, and the problem is the opponent. So I think there was a study in here that said something like, if you're sitting on the same side and then talking about a certain problem or an issue that you're having, that could be a better way to resolve it rather than being face to face and looking like enemies, so that's interesting as well. Then it talks about breaking up and when it's time to leave a relationship, and then it ends with like, you'll love again and again, and hope for the future if you do decide to go separate ways with your partner. So that's all. It's all mainly, and also the last bit was all about universal love, which is definitely a part of life where I do feel very confident. I feel very confident in the first part about the solitude and being able to be alone, and also the last part, which is about universal love, about how I'm spreading love in my day-to-day life, about all the people that I encounter in the day, people in shops, my friends, people I work with. I'm always very positive and supportive, and I think that's a really important part of love as well. It's not just about what we are experiencing in an intimate situation. So I've got those two parts sorted. It's just the middle bit, which is a bit of a mess. But yeah, that's very interesting. So yeah, mainly it is about, I think if you follow this book, there's a lot of, it just gives a very healthy vision of relationships. Another thing that I really loved about it is all these tips about communication. For example, it says, instead of saying this, say this. A lot of reframing, because communication is so important. But then going to the actual event, it was so interesting because it talked about a lot of the similar topics. Some parts of it were quite entertaining and humorous. A lot of interaction with the audience to get to know their stories. And some other parts were very tear-jerky. Oh my god! So me and my friends were crying quite a lot. A lot of the audience was crying actually. And it just, people were sharing stories from, these amazing love stories to couples, how well did they know each other, from dating as well, and then some very heartbreaking stories about separation, and also about people who are, let's say, far away, maybe having some kind of conflicts with family members, etc. So not just about romantic love, but all different types of love and friendship as well. So it was a whole emotional roller coaster this evening, and I was very happy that it wasn't so much, it was kind of loosely based on the book, but I didn't feel that the book was just the same as the event, but in written form. It was very, very different. But yeah, I'm very glad that I went, and it's really made me think about this part of my life that has been very neglected, because I do think that it made me feel about how important this is in our life. Because I think we are maybe taught that maybe work is more important. I think I've lived my life that way anyway, feeling that that work is more kind of reliable than love, just because I haven't been making the right decisions or not really knowing what to make of that part of life in general. But I do think we do need a bit more education about personal relationships. Of course, every relationship is unique. It's a unique expression. But I think if everyone read this book, they would have a more balanced view of relationships and hopefully of self-love as well, and because that's where it all starts. So yeah, that's those are my 12 minutes or 13 minutes talking about 8 Rules of Love. I think it's an amazing book. I would read it again in different circumstances, different maybe personal circumstances, but I think it's definitely a good blueprint. And I think if you're in a relationship, it could be good to read at the same time as your partner and then discuss each chapter together and get some really interesting insights. Another thing that we did in this book with some friends, there are some sets of questions that you could have on a first date, a second date, and a third date to really get to know someone, where they are emotionally and how they see their future, which is something I think is really insightful as well. I did that with a group of friends and we had some very, very deep conversations. So yeah, amazing. So there it is, 8 Rules of Love, Jay Shetty, how to find it, keep it, and let it go. What about you? Have you read this book? Are you interested in this topic? And if you have any other books to recommend on the topic of love or anything else related to personal development, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below, because I'm such a bookworm. I love reading so much. I'm always looking for new stuff. And that's it. That's today's video. So thank you for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow with tomorrow's video, because I'm doing 30-day challenge. And yeah, I made it day 24. So yeah, we are almost there. Thanks for watching. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you tomorrow.